Hey everybody, welcome back to New JANG City, where I've got some new stuff to show you lighting-wise. We're going to be going down to that end of the table. This is the Enterprise Medical Center, my custom hospital, and it is fully lit up on the inside and a little bit on the outside. There we go, that's the look I wanted to show you. So this has a lot of windows, and being a modern hospital, it's supposed to be bright, and you put those two together and the entire thing has a very bright face. What I like most about how this turned out is that I have enough light on the inside, deep enough inside, that you can actually see things that aren't just at the level that's closest to you, but actually down the hall and sometimes even past that. From the second floor mezzanine, for example, you can see into the break room. And again, with plenty of windows, probably too many windows, you can see inside even further. Here's the third floor CT scan room in the radiology wing, and if you look through its door, you can also see down the hall there. There's the x-ray room, some administrative offices, and an exam room, also on the third floor. From this side, you can see distinct lighting zones using different types of LEDs. The ambulance bay has mostly localized lighting that focuses around the emergency entrance. I didn't want to light up the entire bay, and for this entire thing, I was mostly just taking inspiration from what I've seen in person from actual hospitals and trying to make it look like that overall. This large inpatient care area is brightly lit over here, but when you get to the other end where some patients are resting, the lights get dimmer and there's also some warmer light. The birthing suites also use that warmer light because it's supposed to be more calming. And patients definitely need to be calmed if they're going to be attended to by a robot and Doc Holliday. The nursery is fully bright right now because all the babies are fully awake and happy. And this is just one of the areas that I thought was nicer for us as huge figures to look at from the outside, so I wanted to make sure it was fully brightly lit. And there again, you can also see a little bit behind to the hallway and what's going on back there. In fact, from this angle, you can see one of the nurses' stations, and I think you can see the same thing, yep, from down here. Here's one more individual exam room, and again, with the clear door, you get a view down the hall. Oh, almost forgot to show the two emergency/operating rooms. It's still a little bit difficult to see inside of them because there's only a corner window for each, but normally, or before, you couldn't really see in here at all. It was quite very dark, so this is a marked improvement and really helps to show off the cleanness of the space and the brightness of the space. So obviously there's not a super realistic depiction of privacy here, but I really wanted to focus on and prioritize visibility for us to actually be able to see the scenes, because if I closed everything up from the outside, then what would even be the point of having details in the interior? With all the windows, yeah, it might not be realistic, but I like being able to see in there, and I like being able to share a look at the interior with all of you without tearing the entire building apart, and the lighting really just completes the effect. Now, the roof has a little bit of lighting that's been added, but I really want to add more to this later on. I just need to figure out more of exactly how I want to do it. So here I've integrated in a little bit of the brick stuff lights just to be able to use their really small LEDs for the floodlight, searchlight, spotlight, things on the sides. I got one there, and then I've got the cheaper strip type light that's a custom installation underneath the eave of the overhang for the entrance to the elevator. And then this is a brick stuff light up here, which is just a single one. It's just a single LED in there with the lights, with the wires fully enclosed inside of the stalk there. And that's just a basic one that has a set blinking frequency, so I didn't use one of their lighting effect boards, which could have made this a little bit more realistic with a slower blink or possibly even a fade. They have very nice lighting effect boards, but they're very expensive, and I wasn't ready to invest in one just for a single light. I just wanted to see, how this would work. One of the nicest things about how this turned out with the lighting installed is that it actually improves the look of this even under full lighting conditions, so I don't need to turn the lights down in the room to be able to appreciate the difference over here in this corner. So if I step back and zoom all the way out, you can still see that the building is highlighted, and compared to the way it has appeared for, years now, I suppose, it's just so much more alive. You know, it has that little bit of glow to it, which just feels appropriate to me. And I like having just a little bit of movement that's suggested by the blinking light. It would be nice to have some alternating yellow lights down on the helipad itself as well, and possibly to light up the helicopter, maybe even a little bit with just some markers. But you know, there's a lot more work to be done in the future. But for right now, I've done the major stuff, and it is also connected to the same circuit as everything else. So the entirety of everything that I've lit up so far is ultimately connected to one outlet. Here's what it looks like with the lights turned down to just about as dim as they'll go before I go off completely. Actually, most of the bulbs overhead are turned off, but it just shows you the relative brightness of the building that's fully lit up versus at least 3/4 of the city that has absolutely no lighting in it whatsoever. But I've started to bring in some lights in various places, and I will continue to expand that. Of course, we're looking at the dark side of the mall right now, but if I bring you over to this side, there's some brightness there. It doesn't quite match what's going on with the hospital. And yes, the hospital does look very bright. And like I said, I kind of want it to. Honestly, some parts of it I would like to see brighter, but I don't want the whole thing to project too much light outside of itself onto the surrounding areas. I mean, you're seeing kind of an exaggeration. You know, what you see on camera, what you see on screen doesn't quite match how our own eyes automatically adjust in real time as we look at different lighting situations. You're looking at this with just a fixed iris, basically. So it's not a realistic depiction, but I am happy with what I've done so far. If I wanted there to be less light, I definitely would have left some out. I kind of want there to be a little bit more, but I'm holding back a little bit of restraint. I don't want to overdo it. And for folks worried about my power usage and electrical bill, I still get comments about stuff like that on a regular basis. I appreciate the concern where it is genuine, but not to worry. The new building uses the most electricity of any of my installations so far, more even than the mall. And it's taking up less than 6 watts. And for comparison, remember an old traditional single regular light bulb would be 60 watts, 60. So about 1/10 of the power of a single traditional light bulb, or about a little more than half of the power of a modern LED that's equivalent in light output, is what that entire building is using up. And that is a very strongly lit building with 3 floors and a little bit on the top as well. And that accounts also for losses through connectors and wiring and everything, which is relatively minimal. But overall, the amount of juice that's being used is very, very, very small. And for everything that I have put together here, it's still less than 1 light bulb so far. Quite a bit less than 1 light bulb so far. So maybe once I get I think maybe the rest of the buildings down at that end lit up, then that'll be 1 light bulb worth. I've got in my hand here just a little bit of extra of the stuff that I use. So for folks who are interested in what I did there, I mentioned that I used the Brick Stuff system from brickstuff.com for a few of the lights. Everything else is just using stuff like this from Amazon. You just get a roll of stuff like this. These are ones that are set up to be driven by 5 volts in, and they have the appropriate resistors for 5 volt input. 5 volt input. So if you're looking for stuff like this, I use less than $10 worth of lights for almost all of the illumination that you see there from just strips like this. And they're available in various color temperatures. And you just want to look for the stuff that's powered by USB. It's the simplest thing if you're going to be going with 5 volt power. But I mean, there are many different power options out there. 12 volt is very, very common. I went with 5 because the Brick Stuff system uses 5. They also have their USB input, and that was my starting point. They also have battery power. Brick Loot lights, like I've used over here for this little elevated station, also are set up to run off 5 volts from the start. So for me, it was just easy and convenient to standardize on 5 volts for the stuff that I was using as the main input. And ultimately with my power supply and my power grid that's run underneath the tables here, I'll be able to set up little USB ports if I want to connect things that are literally powered by USB, but anything that needs to be done with custom connections will also work. And ultimately, I'll probably have a 12-volt rail underneath there for some other stuff. I do still want to use some of the iBricks system. I got, I think, four iBricks units out of the many that I ordered. I got those some time ago, and I still want to integrate those for some of the lower stuff. They're not as useful as I was hoping they would be, but I think they still will be useful to some degree. And I believe they're using 12 volts, so I'll probably have a secondary system set up. I definitely want to work on that Planetary Defense Force base very soon. I'm starting to get the natural desire to go back to that corner and work on that some more, which is good. I need to have that natural inspiration. Can't force it, otherwise things won't come out looking well and I won't feel good about it. I also got lights to start working on the entire harbor. I want to have a limited amount of lighting there. And this is not going to be a super bright area, but I want to have a bunch of little lights to brighten up individual parts. But for the most part, for this video, just wanted to show you the hospital, and that is now taken care of, and I'm going to work on some other stuff, so I'll talk to you again soon.